On Saturday, April 26, 2025, we exited an Uber at the Royal Caribbean Cruise Terminal in Miami, Florida, and began our cruise vacation on the massive new cruise ship, the Icon of the Seas. This was a 7-night Western Caribbean itinerary that would take us to Roatan, Honduras, a first for us, Costa Maya, Mexico, Cozumel, Mexico, and Royal Caribbean's private island, The Perfect Day at CocoCay. It's taken us a couple of months to carefully go through our notes and the video footage to create a review that reflects our experience during this cruise. The review will focus mostly on the ship itself and our experiences on her. We'll use a scoring system similar to our cruise review for the Norwegian Viva, where every aspect of the ship will be given a score of 1 to 10, where 1 is the worst and 10 is the best. Similar to our other reviews, there will be some areas or aspects of the ship or cruise that we will not put a score on because we didn't fully experience it or try it. Everything discussed in this review is strictly our opinion and was also shared with Royal Caribbean in the post-cruise survey. With all that being said, let's get going. And number 1, kicking it off with the most important crew member we would interact with during the cruise, Rui, or Ray as he called himself, our stateroom attendant. We've always heard rumors over the years that the best crew members in the Royal Caribbean fleet get to work on the newest ships as they come out, and Ray would be a perfect example of this. He was simply amazing. Every little thing we needed he took care of. We saw him often out in the hallways, and he instantly recognized us from down the hallway when call out our names. I had a nice little bundle of cash for a tip for him at the end of the cruise. Definitely a 10 out of 10. Number 2 is the Windjammer. Quite possibly the best one we've experienced on a Royal Caribbean ship. It literally checked all the boxes. Probably the aspect of this Windjammer I noticed right away and appreciated the most during the cruise was the sheer size of the buffet. Given how cramped the Windjammer feels on Oasis-class ships like Harmony of the Seas and Allure of the Seas, I was glad the designers gave the Windjammer on the Icon of the Seas the proper amount of space. With the passenger count as high as it is and the volume of passengers that pass through here every day for a meal, I guess they didn't have much choice, but I'm glad they did. Every other aspect of the buffet was on point, with the food, the service, etc. There was one small issue that's likely related to the volume of passengers, and then that was that there was a push to get everyone to leave when they were finished. Not only were they actually making announcements about it, we had a crew member hovering around us one time on embarkation day with the family standing behind him with plates of food, essentially waiting for us to leave. That I did not like or appreciate. For that one reason, I'm giving the buffet an 8 out of 10. Number 3 on the list, Deonte and Peter, our waiter and assistant waiter, at table 255, deck 3 of the main dining room. Other than Ray, our stateroom attendant, Deonte and Peter were the crew members we spent the most time with. They were both exceptional at their job at dinner each night in the main dining room, and we made sure to name drop them in the post-cruise survey. Also gave them a little cash tip at the end of the cruise because they absolutely deserved it. As for the MDR, everything was up to par with what was usually our experience and what we expect on a Royal Caribbean ship. The food was exceptional. This area of the review is definitely a 10 out of 10. Number 4 on the list comes to us from the Hideway on deck 15 at the back of the ship. When we first visited this area on embarkation day, it didn't take long for this to become my personal favorite venue on the ship. I think Maria would probably agree with me, but I'm not quite sure on that one. The music being played, the level of excellence by the DJ, which honestly I've never heard before on any cruise ship, the infinity pool, etc. The ship's designers figured out how to create a nightclub vibe at the back of the ship with the ultimate wake view. The one negative is the entrance. You have to walk down a set of stairs from deck 16 to enter the Hideway, and for any passengers with mobility issues, this is a problem. There is a wheelchair lift along the side of the steps below where the DJ works, but that lift was covered and seemingly not available. We also noticed many instances where there were no crew members at the top of the stairs if someone needed to use the lift or needed help getting down to the Hideway pool area. Taking these mobility issues into account, we'll give the Hideway area a 7 out of 10. Number 5 on the review, the Wi-Fi was good and fairly reliable. During this cruise, I was able to upload videos to both Facebook and YouTube at a reasonable speed. One item of note in this area, I did not try to live stream during this cruise. We did not experience any of the common Wi-Fi issues we've encountered with some other ships and cruise lines. This Wi-Fi on the Icon was pretty good overall. Given the size of the ship and number of passengers, especially on a sea day when the phone use is likely to be pretty high, the Wi-Fi surprised me at how well it worked. Taking all of this into account, we'll give the Wi-Fi a 10 out of 10. Number 6 on the review, the standard Oceanview balcony stateroom was very nice and comfy. The AC worked really well. We loved the bathroom, especially the shower. Overall, we had no issues with the room. The one area where Maria had some thoughts concerned the closet and the storage, meaning a lack of shelves in the closet. But during the cruise, we came to realize it wasn't so bad and we managed with no problem. One other side note regarding the stateroom, we were originally booked into an infinite veranda stateroom, but after we got home from the Celebrity Beyond in March of 2023, I called Royal Caribbean and had them move us to a standard Oceanview balcony because the infinite veranda is just not for us. The demand for Icon of the Seas was so strong back then, it actually cost me hundreds of dollars to move to the standard Oceanview balcony. Part of the reason is the overall supply of that type of stateroom on the Icon, because so many of the staterooms are the infinite veranda. I'm glad we made the switch, and it was a lesson learned for any future cruises. No infinite verandas for us. We'll give the stateroom a 9 out of 10. Number 7 on our list is the room service. It was very good from what we were told by a family member traveling with us. She would fill out the card each evening and leave it on the door for delivery the next morning. Everything was delivered perfectly and right on time. She didn't order full meals for breakfast, instead opting for essentially a continental breakfast, which is essentially a choice of bread or muffins, fruit, cereal, oatmeal, grits, etc. Her recommended rating for room service is a solid 10 out of 10. Number 8 on the review is a little unusual. When the ship was docked at any of the ports on the itinerary, the process for getting on and off the ship was next level awesome. The escalator from Deck 5 will bring you down to Deck 4, where a second escalator will then bring you down to Deck 2. The area to disembark is nice and big and designed for a large volume of passengers to quickly and easily exit or re-enter the ship. The overall process is the best we've ever seen on any ship by any cruise line. A very solid 10 out of 10 rating for this one. Number 9 on the list is the Royal Promenade. When you experience the Royal Promenade on the Icon of the Seas, you'll be wondering how you ever got by without it on the other ships in the Royal Caribbean fleet. For us, it is the new standard. It will be very hard to cruise on smaller ships in the fleet and not miss the Icon Promenade. It's very nice, big, comfortable, great for parades and events, shopping, and just doesn't feel like you're on a cruise ship. The Pearl is so unique and makes for the perfect backdrop for a photograph. The Pearl Cafe on the upper level is the ultimate version of the Cafe Promenade found on many of the other ships in the fleet. The Royal Promenade on the Icon of the Seas is definitely a 10 out of 10. Number 10 on the review is not so much an area of the ship, but more of a process. The timing of events and entertainment. Just to warn you, this is a little bit of a rant and 100% our opinion. Throughout the cruise, we found the timing of events on the fabulous Royal Promenade and the scheduled times for live entertainment to be poorly organized and frankly stupid. The first example is actually on embarkation night. The first day of the cruise is always going to be busy for passengers. They either had to get up early and drive or fly to the embarkation port or check out of a hotel and head to the port. There's luggage, the check-in process, exploring the ship, and on and on and on. It's arguably a busy day for every passenger. To schedule the famous Royal Caribbean 70th disco party on embarkation night and to start the event at 11:15 at night made 0 sense to us. On top of that, a new tradition that apparently started with the launch of the Icon of the Seas is to have a balloon drop at midnight on embarkation day. Another example of poor scheduling in our opinion. On day 5, which was our Cozumel port stop, the band in Boleros apparently stopped playing at 6:50 p.m., which is the prime time on the Royal Promenade, when many of the passengers would be out and about that evening enjoying the ship. The musician in the Schooner Bar conveniently had the night off, so for the rest of the night, in the middle of the cruise, a night when the Royal Promenade was somewhat busy, there was no live entertainment except for a solo performer in the Point and Feather pub. Apparently, the Boleros band was scheduled to perform later that night in the music hall. Thankfully, these issues are likely short-term, easily correctable with proper scheduling, and don't reflect on the ship and the majority of the crew. For purposes of this specific cruise review, though, we're giving this part of the review a 5 out of 10. Number 11 on the review, for mobility-challenged passengers, the Icon of the Seas was not designed for you, unfortunately. One of the members of our family traveling with us could not visit several areas of the ship because they just weren't accessible for her. The Overlook area in the Aquadome on Deck 14 is a great example. The only way in or out of this area is on foot down a set of stairs on either side. There's no elevator option we could see, and not even a chairlift or a similar option. Someone with mobility issues would have to carefully walk down several steps and then back up those steps or be carried by someone else. We've already covered the Hideway area in the review earlier and the lack of options to get down to the pool and back from Deck 16 above. Thankfully, the designers did include one elevator for the Absolute Zero skating rink on Deck 5 at the back of the ship. The elevator moves very slowly and can easily have a line waiting to use it, but at least it's there. This is one small area where the designers of the ship fell down on the job. We'll give this a rating of a 3 out of 10. Number 12 on the review, even though the designers of the Icon didn't spend much time considering the mobility challenged when working on the ship, they did apparently devote a lot of time to Category 6, the largest water park at sea according to Royal Caribbean. When you're walking around on the upper decks of the Icon of the Seas at the back of the ship, you can't miss the water park. It's absolutely massive and at the same time quite impressive. A mere 7 days is not enough to really enjoy this ship, which is probably by design. It's so massive and so full of fun that you can't just do it all in 1 week. For us, the water park fit into that problem. We were very tempted a few times to try one of the slides, but we had other plans or the timing just wasn't right. Another week on the ship, and we'd definitely be hitting those slides. While recording video of our fellow passengers enjoying them, it really seemed like they were having a lot of fun. We'll give this area of the ship a solid 10 out of 10. Before we continue, a quick word. If you're enjoying the video so far, please consider subscribing to the channel and give this video a thumbs up. That really helps us out, and it lets YouTube know to share the video with others. Number 13 on the review is the Basecamp on Deck 16. It's an interesting area that we passed through numerous times during the cruise. Maria ordered food from their walk-up food bar at least once, and we both had a few drinks from the bar at different times during the cruise. It's a very nice, spacious area, and it sits under the sports court on Deck 17, which is nice when it's blazing hot and not a cloud in the sky. We'll give this area of the ship a solid 10 out of 10. Number 14 on the review is the Hooked Seafood Restaurant on Deck 15. It was one of the specialty restaurants we pre-booked for the cruise. Between the three of us that had dinner that night, the opinions varied on the quality of the food, which surprised me. I thought it was very good and what I expected, but I was the lone exception apparently. This could easily be a one-off experience, as we've rarely ever had issues with food service on a Royal Caribbean cruise. The one thing we all agreed on was the amazing server for our table. He certainly earned the extra tip at the end of the night. As for the specialty restaurant, we'll give it a 7 out of 10. Number 15 on the review, the other specialty restaurant we pre-booked for this cruise was none other than Chops Grille. Unlike Hooked, everyone in our dinner party thoroughly enjoyed both the food and the service. Our food was cooked to perfection and served by Olusky. I'm not sure if I've got his name correct there or not. He was our server. He earned a nice tip at the end of the meal. As for Chops, the restaurant itself, definitely a 10 out of 10. Number 16 on the review, at the front of the Icon of the Seas on Deck 15 is the Aquadome. This area is similar to the Aqua Theater on an Oasis-class ship, but different enough that Royal has come up with a very unique performance that is a mix of diving, acrobatics, robotics, and several other things. It was very entertaining, and we ended up seeing it a second time because a family member couldn't make it for the first time when we saw it. The Aqua Action show was so much better than any of the water-related shows we'd seen on several Oasis-class cruises prior to this cruise on Icon, primarily because the Aquadome presented new capabilities not found on other ships in the fleet. We'll give that show and this area of the ship a 10 out of 10. Number 17 on the review is a little interesting. It's the elevators. specifically the new elevators on the Icon of the Seas. These worked very well overall, but we did experience a few times where we had to wait similar to the classic elevators on other ships in the fleet. Given the number of passengers and times during the cruise when everyone was out and about doing stuff, this was understandable. All things being equal, this new style of elevator does seem to be an improvement over the classic elevators found on the other ships in the fleet. We'll give them a 10 out of 10. Number 18 on the list is a new entry for one of our cruise reviews, the DJs on the cruise ship. Prior to this cruise on the Icon of the Seas, I'd never paid much attention to the DJs on a Royal Caribbean cruise or any other cruise line. They were never very good and just not really worth inclusion in the cruise review. The Icon of the Seas was completely different. All 4 DJs we saw and heard during this cruise were exceptional, as in they could easily get a job in a nightclub on land level of exceptional. We've never experienced that in the past. Prior to Icon, it felt like the DJ on a cruise ship was just a random crew member assigned to the job of DJ. Of the 4 on the Icon, 2 of them really stood out as exceptional. I wish Royal would take this level of care in hiring for the same position on the other ships. A solid 10 out of 10 for the DJs on the Icon of the Seas. Number 19 on our cruise review is the Thermal Suite. Maria reported back that the Thermal Suite in the spa was very nice. She had the pass for it for the full 7 days and used it numerous times. She didn't record any video in there because obviously that would have seemed strange, but based on her experience, we'll give the Thermal Suite a solid 10 out of 10. Number 20 on the list is the Royal Theater at the front of the ship on decks 4 and 5. It's very similar to what you'd find on an Oasis class ship in terms of size and layout. We saw one show in the theater during the cruise, and it was the meeting place for several of our shore excursions in the morning. Overall, no complaints with the theater. It's exactly what you'd expect. A 10 out of 10 rating for us. Number 21 on the list, the fitness center at the front of the ship is enormous and loaded with a very nice array of equipment. The location and entrance are quite unique. You essentially enter and exit from the walking track on deck 5. Placing the fitness center in this location on the ship was a very smart idea. It makes excellent use of the space at the front of the ship. While we didn't work out during this cruise, we did find the perfect time to visit the gym and check out the space and the equipment. A definite 10 out of 10 rating. Number 22 on our list is the 1400 Lobby Bar. Became our go-to spot for a pre-dinner drink after we discovered their unique drink menu. This coupled with the perfect location on the lower level of the Royal Promenade, and we had our meeting spot. This ship is so large and has so many options for an adult beverage, but definitely try the 1400 bar at least once during your cruise on the Icon of the Seas. We'll give this bar a solid 10 out of 10 rating. Number 23 on our list, similar to the fitness center at the front of the ship, Absolute Zero at the very back of the ship on deck 5 makes very good use of the space behind the main dining room and below the kids' water park in Surfside. The entrance to Absolute Zero is a little strange in that you have to walk through Playmakers and then down a set of stairs, but the venue itself is very nice. We saw the ice show one night in the middle of the cruise and it was very entertaining. We'll give Absolute Zero a 10 out of 10. Number 24 on our list, the Crown Lounge on deck 6. It was hardly ever crowded the few times we stopped by. It occupies a nice little spot on the upper level of the Royal Promenade and is staffed by a concierge who was very helpful for us. He assisted us a few times during the cruise when we needed to make reservations for shows or had questions about certain aspects of the cruise. The only thing missing from this lounge were windows to see the outside world, but we've seen this same layout on Oasis class ships, so we weren't surprised. We'll give the Crown Lounge a 10 out of 10. At number 25 on the list, I mentioned the Pearl Cafe earlier when describing the Royal Promenade, but I think it deserves a special mention. Over the course of the cruise, we found ourselves visiting the Pearl Cafe in the morning for breakfast on several occasions and also for afternoon snacks. In addition, the professional photographers would set up their station at the top of the steps inside the Pearl and use it for a nice backdrop. Given the overall size of the ship, the Pearl Cafe is like an elevated version of the Cafe Promenade on smaller ships in the Royal Caribbean fleet. We definitely enjoyed it and will give it a rating of a 10 out of 10. Number 26 on the review, the Schooner Bar on deck 6. It was a great option for us for a pre-dinner drink, and with the overall size of the ship, it offers plenty of room, comfortable seating, and a great view from the upper level of the Royal Promenade. Our only complaint regarding the Schooner Bar was the timing of the live entertainment, which we touched on earlier in the review. This may not be feasible, but Royal should consider adding an additional performer to the staff so that the Schooner Bar is never without a performer at night. For that one reason, we'll give it an 8 out of 10. Number 27 on our list, Playmakers Sports Bar on Deck 6. It was very popular, and while we didn't eat or drink in there, we did pass through several times and it was always busy. For our cruise, it had a nice selection of games and activities, along with an impressive array of TVs located throughout the bar. We've heard good things about the food at Playmakers on other ships in the fleet, so I'm sure the venue on the Icon lives up to that standard. Since we didn't eat or drink there, we're not going to give it a rating. At number 28 on our list, Boleros on Deck 6 was a small disappointment for two seemingly strange reasons. The layout was not to our liking. The positioning and arrangement of the chairs throughout the bar area were directed at the dance floor, and it just felt off. It also wasn't very crowded when there was no live music, which was the other issue. Common sense, at least to us, would dictate that similar to the Schooner Bar, Boleros should have live music every night of the cruise, and that was not the case. As mentioned earlier in the review, the timing of the entertainment did not make sense to us. We're giving Boleros a rating of 5 out of 10. Number 29 on the review, the Surfside Neighborhood on Deck 7 at the back of the ship is where the focus on family on the Icon of the Seas really comes into view. It's enormous and definitely popular with children and parents alike. We walked through the area a couple of times and got lucky with the timing of the live performers that operate in this area. I'm not sure I've seen that before on previous Royal Caribbean cruise, and it was entertaining to watch. The Splashaway Bay Waterpark reminded us of the version on Royal's private island CocoCay, and the area around the water's edge pool is great for the wake view when the ship is leaving port. Overall, this is a great area on the ship, and we'll give it a solid 10 out of 10 rating. Number 30 on our review is the Central Park on Deck 8. It's very similar to what you'll find on Oasis-class ships, but with subtle differences. Park Cafe is one of the main attractions for this area of the ship. The trellis bar on Icon is much larger than we've seen on Oasis-class ships, and it even served a little bit of food. The walk-up window for Izumi is unique, along with Lou's Jazz and Blues Bar. The set of stairs down to the Pearl Cafe actually came in quite handy as we used them a few times during the cruise. Central Park is definitely a 10 out of 10. Number 31 on the review, the Overlook on Deck 14 at the front of the ship reminded us of a cross between the Solarium on an Oasis-class ship and 270 on one of the Aquadome-class ships. It's a very interesting area, but as mentioned earlier in the review, is only accessible by stairs when you're in the Aquadome. We didn't spend much time in the Overlook, as 7 days just isn't enough time to really explore and enjoy every area on the Icon of the Seas, which is probably why the ship gets so much repeat business. We'll give this area an 8 out of 10, taking off 2 points for the lack of access for mobility-challenged passengers. Number 32 on the review, the Aquadome Market on Deck 15 is Royal Caribbean's answer to the galley on Virgin Voyages. It's a great space on the ship to get a quick bite to eat from a walk-up style eatery. We had lunch there a couple of times during the cruise, and the food was top-notch. The speed at which you can get something to eat is very appealing, and the location was very convenient for us since our staterooms were on Deck 14 at the front of the ship. Overall, we really enjoyed the market, a definite 10 out of 10. Number 33 on the review comes to us from the Lime and Coconut. This one on the Icon of the Seas is absolutely enormous. The amount of real estate it was given during the design of the ship is likely due to its popularity on other ships in the fleet. The majority of it sits on Deck 15 midship, between the Aquadome on one side and the Overlook down to Central Park on the other. You can walk around it on either the port or starboard side of the ship, or you can visit the upper portion on Deck 16, which conveniently sits next to the Swim and Tonic walk-up bar. The frozen drinks and the custom drink menu make the Lime and Coconut a must-visit during your cruise on the Icon of the Seas. We'll give this bar a rating a 10 out of 10. Number 34 on the review, the Royal Bay Pool on Deck 15, just past the Lime and Coconut bar on the starboard side of the ship, would be considered the main pool on the Icon of the Seas. While we didn't go in the pool or really in that area, we did walk by it many times during the cruise, and it was always packed. It also has the benefit of entertainment from the band or DJ playing on the port side of the ship on Deck 16 in Chill Island. We'll give this area of the ship a solid 10 out of 10. And the last item on our review is El Loco Fresh on Deck 15 on the port side of the ship next to the Cantina Fresca. It's a great little spot for a quick lunch. We stopped in there a few times, mostly on sea days. It's a little small in that area, so it can get very crowded very quickly, but the food was on par with all of the other venues of the ship. I would definitely recommend it if you're over by the pool on the starboard side and want a quick bite to eat without going into the Windjammer. We'll give this area a 10 out of 10. And so we look at our totals for the review. Out of 340 possible points, the Icon scored 310 in our review, which works out to a rating of about 9.117, or essentially a 9 out of 10 rating from us. There were a few minor issues, but as you can tell from that score, we really had a great time. To be sure, it's a very unique experience. Number one, the size of the ship is just next level. We've been on several cruises on Oasis-class ships from Royal Caribbean, and we still marveled at just how big the Icon really is. Number two, along with that size comes the sheer number of passengers. We'd never been on a cruise with that many people before in a week. Thankfully, the size of the ship allows everyone to really spread out and enjoy themselves. Apart from embarkation day, when everyone is coming on at the same time and the Royal Promenade is crazy, the rest of the cruise was very nice. There were a few times when the Windjammer felt like most of the ship was in there at the same time, but it was still pretty manageable. Number three, if our cruise was typical of a week on the Icon, the marketing towards a family vacation is definitely working. Families with children were everywhere, so if that's not your ideal cruise experience, you might want to reconsider the Icon class. I'm sure the future ships in this class will be a similar experience. And that's it for our review of the Icon of the Seas. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope this review is helpful or at least entertaining. Please consider subscribing to the channel and give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. That really helps us out and lets YouTube know that you enjoyed the experience. We have future cruises booked on Royal Caribbean and Princess Cruises, so we will see you in the next cruise review.